Vivian, and today we're talking about A Thousand Ships by Natalie Haynes. This was my favorite book from January, and I totally recommend it for book clubs because it's a really good book and there is a lot that you can talk about. So, in this video, I'll give you just a quick rundown of what the book is about, and then I'm going to give you 3 quick and easy questions or topics that you can discuss with your book club. Or if you're not in a book club, there are a couple of things that you can write about in your reading journal or think about as you're reading the book and letting yourself connect with the characters and their stories, right? So, get ready to take some notes. Here we go. Okay, so first let me tell you what the heck this book is about. All right, it is A Thousand Ships is a retelling of the Trojan War, but from the perspective of the women that were involved in the war, right? The women of Troy, the Queen of Troy and her daughters, the Queen of Ithaca and her daughters, and Penelope. Penelope's got a story in there. She was the wife of Odysseus, right? And she's like waiting for Odysseus to finish his Odyssey so that he can come home to her. And then it also includes stories of like the gods and the goddesses who sort of started the whole war and how they started it and why they started it and like what they were doing with this whole thing, right? So the book reads like kind of a series of short stories. All of the different women have their own story to tell. And their stories are just woven together so gorgeously. It's gorgeous. But I need to give you some fair warning, right? This is a story about a war. And so it includes all of the horrible things that happen to women during the war. Yeah, so some of these chapters are quite heavy, right? There were actually a series of chapters in a row that I was reading where I got to the end of a chapter and I just had to close the book and sit with what had happened for a while because it was heavy, right? It's a little bit heavy. But I walked away at the end of this book just wanting to talk about these women, right? Which is why I think it would be a great book for a book club. So I want to talk about these women. So let's get to my 3 questions. All right, so question number 1, which woman's story resonated with you the most? Like there were a whole bunch of women in this book and they all had a story that was very different, right? And so which one was the most meaningful to you or which ones, right? It's a little bit like who's your favorite character? But yeah, like which story resonated with you the most, right? Was it one of the goddesses? Was it one of the women of Troy? Was it one of the women from Greece, one of the Greek women? Like, which story, which woman in her story did you find to be the most meaningful to you? And why? So the next question, number 2, goes along with that, and it's which woman's story resonated with you the least and why? And the third question is something that I've been thinking about since I read the book, and that's like the differences between the gods and the goddesses and the humans. Like the difference in their stories, the difference in their behaviors, in their conduct, in their, gosh, I don't want to give too much away. But so the question is, what did you think about the gods and the goddesses and their involvement in this whole debacle? And then, particularly with respect to the goddesses, what did you think and how did you feel about the way that the goddesses conducted themselves and behaved versus the way that the human women conducted themselves? Like, just what was your perspective and how did you feel about these two different sort of sets of women, right? Goddesses on the one hand and humans on the other. I thought it was interesting, and I'm curious to know what other people think about that. So, those are some of the things that I wrote about in my reading journal after I read this book, and things that I would love to discuss with other people, right? I'd love to talk about the characters. I'd love to talk about the various scenes that really resonated with me, like especially the scenes where I couldn't stop reading, or the scenes where I had to stop reading and put the book away, right? There were all of these moments within this book, within these women's stories, that I just found myself going, I want to talk about this with somebody, right? I 100% recommend this book for book clubs. There are so many things to talk about. And like, how I'm always going on and on about, connecting with characters and stories is so much better than just consuming book after book after book after book. Well, this is a book where I, anyway, connected with the characters and the stories. And I feel like because there are so many characters and so many stories to connect with, everybody will find something to talk about. So, if you've read this book and you want to discuss it, I am totally in for that, right? Send me a message, or if you want to leave a comment and just get the conversation started in the comment section of this video, I am in for that too. In the meantime, if your book club is thinking about discussing or definitely discussing Remarkably Bright Creatures or Lessons in Chemistry, have a look at these videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.